Boy X, page 179, 7 hours and 33 minutes until shutdown. Without hesitation, Ash reached down to grab the pack. He dragged it away from the place where it was snagged and opened it as quickly as he could. He pulled out a syringe gun, shining like polished silver, and held it up to the light. It was the same as the ones they had seen in the lab. "That's your cure," Thorne said. "Zeus. Everyone on Kane's team was injected, but I kept a dose, just in case." Ash looked at the syringe gun in his hand. "Just put it against your arm and pull the trigger," Thorne said. "It's simple. I'm sorry I only have one. You'll have to decide which of you is going to have it." Isabel opened her mouth to say something, but Ash shuffled forward on his knees and pressed the barrel of the gun against her upper arm. He squeezed the trigger and the needle came forward, releasing what he hoped was Zeus into Isabel's system. "There." Ash tossed the syringe away. "It's done." "Very noble," Thorne said. "Now for my water and painkillers." Ash took a metal canister from the pocket on the side of the pack and dropped it down into the hole. Thorne groaned when it landed on his stomach and grabbed it before it could roll away. "Painkillers?" he said. "As soon as you tell me about my mom." "There's a plastic box. Take it out. Let me see them." With an impatient sigh, Ash dug into the pack and found a white plastic box with a red cross printed on the front. He popped it open and saw 3 narrow packs with a covering of foil, similar to a strip of tablets. Taking them out, he held them up for Thorne to see. "Tell me everything you know, and you can have them." Thorne took a sip of water and wiped his mouth. "Isla Negra is unique," he said. "There's nowhere else like it on Earth. At least, not that anyone knows about. During World War II, it was important because of the Panama Canal, but there was also a small research facility here." "You mean like Nazi experiments?" Ash asked. "No." Thorne shook his head in a slow and weak movement. "Most papers were destroyed, but scraps and fragments were found in different languages: German, French, Japanese, English. Whatever they did, whatever happened here, it changed the island. It could have been a virus or bacteria that leaked and altered the nature of the microorganisms. Maybe the reintroduction of animals used for experimentation. No one's sure of anything except that something changed this island. For many years, it was left to evolve. The buildings crumbled, but the forest and the animals changed. They thrived. Which is why everything here is so weird," Ash said. "Why the animals are bigger. I get it, but what's that got to do with my mom?" "When Biomessa came here, they noticed that the biggest changes occurred in one animal in particular, the monkeys. The howlers." Immediately, Ash remembered the way they had watched him from the glass cages in the lab, how they had stared at him from the treetops. A shivering uneasiness tingled in his scalp. What kind of changes? They were strong, intelligent, resistant to disease, able to adapt to almost anything. That's where your mother and Pierce became involved. They worked together on... Mom worked with Pierce? Mm-hmm. A research black site, a secret facility, was established on the island. Your mother and Pierce came here more than 10 years ago to investigate what was happening, and they became interested in the monkeys. Pierce thought he'd identified some kind of mutation in their blood, something that made them different, something that could be used to enhance human performance. Thorne paused and grimaced in pain. Ash waggled the painkillers. "Keep talking." "Pierce wanted to test his mutagen on humans, but the days when that was allowed were long gone, so he tested it on himself. It was a failure. Nothing worked. After that, all I know is that something happened between Pierce and your mother. Pierce's research was closed down, and he was dismissed from the company, and your mother left the island to continue working at Biomessa in America. That's where she isolated Kronos from blood taken from the howler monkeys living here. Swimming in their blood right alongside it was the antiviral Zeus. But that can't... I know you don't want to believe it, Ash, but it's true. Your mother weaponized Kronos. She made it airborne. That means you can catch it the same way you catch a common cold. Thorn winced as pain burned through his leg. She was appalled, though, at what she had achieved, at how uncontrollable Kronos was. You have to believe that, Ash. All her energies were then focused on Zeus, on the cure. Ash thought back to the storage room in the biosphere, to all the Hex-13 nestled in the locker. What had Isabel said when he asked if they made guns here? Not guns, other kind of weapons, I think. Pierce wasn't working for Biomessa anymore, but somehow he found out how far your mother had progressed with her research, Thorn said. He demanded that his part in the discovery should be acknowledged. He wanted the details of how to isolate the virus. He wanted Kronos. But your mother refused to give it to him. She feared he might sell it as a weapon, sell it to the highest bidder. She believes it's too dangerous, too unresearched. It begins like the flu, but develops fast, spreading through the internal organs in hours, making them bleed like the Ebola virus. And once Kronos has done its worst, even Zeus can't save you. Shut down, Ash whispered. Your mother destroyed her research against the orders of Biomessa. Everything to do with Kronos was wiped from existence, and that made Pierce mad. He hired Kane's team to help him, to force your mother to reproduce her work from memory. The biosphere was still operational, still used for secret genetic experimentation. So we took a private jet to San Jose in Costa Rica, a helicopter to Isla Negra, and here we are, the only place on the planet where Pierce could force your mother to recreate her work. He needed a lab, and he needed those monkeys. This is the only place where the right blood can be found, and if she didn't do as he asked, you would be killed. He had intelligence to that effect, so I infiltrated the team back in America. My job was to stop them. In a daze, Ash stared down at Thorn. That's why they kept me asleep, he said, so I was ready to be killed. No one knows why you didn't wake up, but Pierce didn't care. He had you where he needed you, and when your mother's work on Kronos and Zeus was completed, Pierce planned to release the virus within the dome and lock down the biosphere. Everyone was supposed to die in there, while he escaped with your mother's notes. With those and just one monkey, Pierce would have everything he needed to make Kronos as he wants. But things went wrong when your mother tried to stop him. How do we know you're not lying? Isabel asked. How do we know that you weren't going to kill us? Thorn fixed his eyes on her. I could have done it in the corridor. I was right beside you in the dark, remember? Or I could have done it in the storeroom. I could have killed you any time. But you didn't. Isabel glanced at Ash, but he was silent, still reeling from the idea that Pierce had ordered his death. No, because I wanted to help you. But it doesn't matter if you don't believe me. What you do have to do is stop Pierce from getting off this island. If you don't, millions of people will die. Pierce thinks he's going to sell Kronos to the broker, a man who wants to control it, Thorn said. But he's wrong. The broker isn't a man. It's an organization, a doomsday cult that wants to save the planet by wiping it clean and starting over. A few chosen people will be given Zeus. Then Kronos will be released across the world, and everything will begin anew, a simpler world. They want to kill everyone? Isabel whispered. The explosive from the storeroom, Thorn said. I have some right there in my pack. Detonators and handsets, too. Use it to put a hole in the boat. Whatever happens, they can't leave this island. And if you're lucky, you might even be able to save your parents. How? There's a radio transceiver on the boat. The only way to communicate off-island. Before you use the explosives, set the radio to channel 72 and broadcast a coded message. Repeat it every minute until you hear a response. What message? Isabel asked. Tighten down. I have people standing by on the mainland. They can be here in well under half an hour. Right. Isabel looked at Ash, then at the painkillers in his hand. Give them to him. Let's go. Ash hesitated, then threw the box down into the hole and stood up. Gonna stop there so I can upload it without problems.